Today, we're going to talk about admissions essays. And if you're a junior in high school, I know you're probably thinking about AP tests, final exams. Those are all important things for sure. But you're also about 6 months away from the admissions process. And as much as that's about grades, standardized testing, and activities, it's also about what you write about, and more in particular, what you write about yourself. So today, we're going to talk about admissions essays. 10 things that you should be doing when you're putting together your essay. Well, the first question that probably needs to be asked is, why are admissions essays so important? So when you think about when you're trying to court a significant other, or maybe you're interested in somebody, the stats are important, but really they want to know about who you are as a person. Well, admissions to a college or university is the same thing. The statistics tell them a little bit, but to really get to know who you are, what you write about is going to tell them a lot about who you are as a person. They want to know what makes you special, what makes you tick, and why they should be interested in you. Writing a college admissions essay or personal statement is about you looking like a rock star. It's that fine line between being arrogant and confident, but it's also about showing them what you're really made of. And when we're talking about essays, we're not talking about writing your entire life story in high school. That would be like me asking you about a movie. You could tell me about the whole movie, and you might give me some basic details of it. But if I was to ask you about a specific scene in that movie, you might be able to give me a little bit more detail that give me some insight into what the writers were thinking, the actors were thinking, or the director was thinking. And it's the same thing with writing an essay. You want to focus on one particular scene in your high school career that tells them more about you than anything else in that application. So when you're talking about becoming a rock star, it's really about you. It's always going to be about you. And if you're going to write about you, you better give it some time, and it better be very interesting and compelling. So let's get started. The first thing that you need to do is look at the application essay prompt. What are they asking you for? In fact, what I say is you take the essay, cut it out, put it on a Word doc, and you highlight every single keyword and you let that be your guide. So they might ask you to tell you about a significant event or activity or something that was interesting to you. The key is you don't write about all of those things. You identify one of those things. Remember, it is a scene in a movie, not the entire movie. And you need to be specific, and you better make sure that you hit all the important pieces of what they're asking for you in the prompt. The next thing you want to do is do some brainstorming. But it's not about just the facts or recalling the information surrounding that particular event or activity. It's also what's going on in your heart. How did it make you feel? How did you respond to it? What impact did it have on you? So it's a balance between not only the facts, but also why you felt that way or how it impacted you. Now, the first thing that I like to do is I don't break out a computer. I don't start typing away. I do this exercise with students called mental vomit. I want them to get every single phrase, thought, idea, word, sentence out. And I draw a circle around that prompt and I just start writing, having them write all around the outside. The events on one side, the emotions on the other side. And what we're trying to do is get everything humanly possible out. And it's just random thoughts, random ideas. And by doing that, you're sure not to miss anything. And by the way, that's not just sit down and get it all done at one time. You might have to revisit this 2 times, maybe 3 times, just to make sure you've got everything out. What we want to do is do more of an exploratory process at the beginning, getting everything that you can recall out on paper. Then we can sit down and organize our thoughts. outline it. So what's the introduction? What is it, the thing that's going to get their attention? What's the body of it? What is the events that are going to support that and the emotion that fed into that particular situation? And then the conclusion, what did you learn? How did it benefit you? How did it affect you? Before we write the whole thing out, what I really want the student to do is to focus on an introduction. An introduction that's designed to get the reader's attention immediately, like literally in the first 2 sentences. Now, I want you to keep this in mind. An admissions officer who's reading essays is reading not hundreds, but in some cases, thousands of essays. If they all look the same, sound the same, and they're boring and they don't give any depth to the individual, it's just a big yawn fest. What you want to do is get their attention immediately. And the way that you can do that is writing a compelling and interesting introductory sentence or 2. Grab the reader right away, get them entrenched in what you're going to talk about, and then lay out the rest of that essay in the body and the conclusion. Now that you've got this rough draft, you gotta let it relax, and you gotta just set it aside and let it marinate. Now, for those of you who might not be familiar with that word marinate, not really associated with writing, it's really a barbecue term, or one that I use. I take a steak and I put it in some seasoning and I let it sit there. Why? Because you want to let the flavor come out. You want to leave it alone so that it can start to develop not only in your conscious, but in your subconscious. And by the way, while we're on this topic, I always tell my students, don't hesitate to have a notebook and pen near your bed. So if you wake up in the middle of the night with an incredible idea that you may have thought that you should have included in that essay, that you can do it. You can add it. You can write it down because you don't want to forget it. That's your subconscious at work. Here's the cool thing about that. Sometimes the best work that I do and students I do is after they've let that essay sit for a little bit. They pull it out and then we do what we call an edit. We're just going to go through, kind of shave off the rough edges, clean it up a little bit, maybe make some adjustments, really focus on that concluding paragraph, what we've learned, maybe add a couple of details that we may have missed when we were doing our brainstorming and heartstorming exercise. And then guess what? We're going to put it away again and let it sit there. Day or 2 later, we're going to pull it out. We're going to read it out loud to ourselves so we can hear it, and then make some final touches. And then we're all done. We can put it aside and get it ready for the admissions process. Now, that may seem like it's going to take a little bit of time. Well, that's because it is. Like I said, writing essays isn't easy. And in the bottom of this video, there's a link where you can get directed to one of our courses where we jump into the details on how to construct an essay in a little bit more detail than we can do in this video. Some of you are going to write a couple of essays. Some of you are going to write 10 essays. You might even write 12 or 15 essays. The key is to make sure you're specific, that you get the facts out, but the emotions too, to make sure that you talk about the impact it had on you as an individual, how it's made you a better person, or what you've learned about yourself in the process. And more importantly, let them see who you truly are, because it's not about the statistics, it's about you as a person, individual, and what makes you different than other students and how you're going to be an asset to their campus. This is Ed Sanderson, the CEO of Ducerus, your total college solution. We'll talk to you soon.